Happy Sunday, everybody. This is Carter. We are talking about a sensitive subject this week, and that is the word tranny, and the use of that word. I guess I first want to start off by saying, obviously I'm a supporter of this community, so any use of the word, especially in this video, I never mean to offend. I never mean to be disrespectful to any of you guys out there. However, tranny is a word that my boyfriend and I do use, and we use it lightly. But I know that a lot of people take serious offense to that word, and I completely understand that. And tranny can mean all kinds of things, and I think it means it has been used, to mean a transvestite, a transsexual, transgendered individual. Anything trans, you can ultimately use that word. In fact, when my boyfriend came out, he did not want that word associated with him or to use that word, and he did not want to be a tranny. But at some point, I guess, we just became okay with it, with each other. I kind of equate it a little bit like the N-word, I guess. Now, I hate that word completely, but you find people within that community, or within the African American community, who use the word, kind of in that whole we're the only ones who can use it kind of way. And I kind of feel, I guess, the same way about the word tranny. Absolutely, it has a derogatory past, and people outside of the community use that word to be mean, and to express hate. So, in that sense, I don't like the word, and anybody who isn't a tranny or a tranny supporter or any of those things, if they were ever to utter those words, my boyfriend and I would have their heads. We would not allow them to use that negatively. But we use the word, I think, more to take the venom out of it. Between us, we can make light of it and know that...
I don't think I'd have their heads. I think I'm calling them an idiot.
Whatever.
Sorry.
Anyway.
Hey, how's it going?
So, and I think that's the problem, and unfortunately, when you're a transgender individual, there comes a lot of self-awareness and, I think, self-consciousness, for good reason, because it is something that society doesn't openly, take into their arms, and it makes people self-conscious about themselves. And I think that's an issue in general that transgendered individuals work through, is having to become comfortable in your own skin, no matter what stage that is. So I think our acceptance of the word in our household did also evolve as Todd became more comfortable with his identity and with his being trans. So again, I may have even used the word in a former video, and if I did, and if I offended someone, I certainly apologize. Like I said, I only ever use it, kind of tongue-in-cheek, lightheartedly, and like I said, really to take the venom out of it, because it makes it lose its power. And actually, like Todd did kind of just chime in a minute ago, he said, I wouldn't have somebody's head if they called me that. I would just call them ignorant. And I think it's partly because he has worked through his issue with the word and the fear that he had of being a tranny. He was really worried about that, but now he just says, that's, to a degree, it's what I am, and we can use that word. However, again, I understand why it is offensive for so many people. And it would be offensive to me if someone who was not knowledgeable on the issue or sympathetic to the cause used it. If there is malicious intent behind it, absolutely the word is still offends me. So, but again, it does have a really long history of being hate speech, and I completely understand why other people are not completely comfortable with that word. And you have every right to be. If you're offended by that, you have every right to be. But I think a lot of it just has to do with coping mechanisms and different people's reactions to things, and we just take the road where it's, let's use it to depower it, and some people are just of a different coping mechanism for that word and, choose not to use it. But it doesn't make one way right or wrong, and it doesn't make someone whose views are different than mine on it, wrong because they feel differently about the word. Because, word associations, too, are completely formed by an individual's experience. As far as the term tranny chaser, as far as what I know about it, simply means someone, or basically, I guess, means someone who has sought out multiple relationships with the transgender individuals. However, again, it is one of those terms, even within our community, unfortunately, that has kind of become hate speech. It has been attached more to someone who I guess more like a fetish, I think people often refer to. It's like someone seeking out a transgender individual for an ulterior motive other than I'm attracted to you as a person, and I'm in love with you, and you happen to be trans, and you happen to be, the multiple person that I have been attracted to that was trans. And unfortunately, like I said, even within the community, that word gets thrown around as a hateful term. I don't love the term, tranny chaser. I'm not totally offended by it. If someone wanted to call me that, first of all, again, they would be ignorant because my boyfriend is the first trans person I've been with. But aside from just me, you know, it's just, I don't think, a very polite word. But then at the same time, I think a lot of things do depend on context, and I don't know. I think a lot of it's context, and if there's an understanding amongst a few people and they're using that word within their circle, and they all have no problem with it, then that's fine. But again, I think it's an intent. If someone uses the word with intent to malign someone or be rude or an ass or whatever, then I think it should be received in that way. So again, this is just something that, is hard for some people, and I know the community kind of goes both ways. Some people don't care about the word tranny and, say it all day to each other and, have no problem with that, and some people really have a problem with it. And it's just because, again, it is kind of historically a slanderous kind of hate speech word. But personally, my boyfriend and I are not offended by it, and had to come to that own term, come to that on our own terms. And we do use the word in our house in a light manner. But it, to each his own. Different strokes for different folks, I think I've said before. I'm truly about each individual, has your own past, which, leads to your own thought processes and feelings on things, and someone else's history can lead them to a different conclusion about the word. But one thing is true, and I think, in our community we're aware of that a lot more than like general public, is, we don't want to be disrespectful to each other. There's, people are rude assholes in general way too often anyway. So even if, for example, I'm not offended by the word, but I don't want to use it just, all the time in my videos for fear that someone would be offended by that. And we, as people in general, should try to be sensitive to each other on that. So for people who aren't offended, keep in mind that some people are, and vice versa. People who are offended, keep in mind maybe if someone says it, they didn't mean to offend you, that their intent maybe was completely different. So that's really all I have allow. can't believe that's 10 minutes. I apologize if that got really long and boring. But I hope you guys have a great week, and come back next week, and we'll talk to you then. Bye.